splash specialist, dive instructor, splash specialist, deeper dives, dialogue unlimited. We on demonstrate, bitch, we penetrate. If you ain't on, you need to get on. The instructions is ready, the equipment is ready. We going deep. Let's fucking go.
Yeah, let's go.
What's going on with it, man?
It's ongoing. You know it don't stop, brother. It don't stop.
I mean, with the way the world just keeps spinning on that axis, so it gotta keep going. Otherwise, we gonna fall out of orbit. You dig?
Yeah, I dig.
For sure, man.
We're back at it.
Yeah, buddy.
Like a crack in the smack addict.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah.
Craftmatic.
On the Craftmatic. Wheezing like an asthmatic nose. Yeah.
Oh.
No Diddy. Well, welcome back to another episode of the Deeper Dives, Dialogue Unlimited.
Yeah.
I'm your host, the dive instructor, aka the aquatic orator, with my co-host,
the splash specialist, aka the one who gets you in the water, but you gotta learn how to swim on your own. I'm gonna take you to the motherfucking deep, but you gotta make sure you want to learn for sure.
For sure, man. It's been a minute.
It has been, but that just gives us more to talk about.
Well, that is so true. so true.
For sure, man. For sure. We got a lot to talk about, a lot to cover, a lot to uncover.
We're going to get into it a bit here, y'all. So, hey, bear with us. Stick and stay and don't go away. Like, share, subscribe. Join our locals on Deeper Dives Unlimited. Rumble.com/Deeper Dives Unlimited. You know what I'm saying? Contribute, participate, comment, hate, whatever. We welcome it all. Bring it on in. We're going to discuss so-called Black identity. We're going to get a little heavy into it. We're going to discuss a new executive order that's been passed by our current president and his administration, appointing J.D. Vance basically to oversee the correction of the record, the historical record, and as it particularly pertains to the so-called African American, heritage or something, museum. Let me pull that up just so I can make sure my mind is there.
Hey, well, to reference your shirt, I ain't from Africa. I'm from Crenshaw Mafia.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We're not going to say the other part because even though he likes to joke, some people might get horrendously offended by it.
Sure.
But we don't have that spirit or intent. But hey, these just jokes.
Right on.
Until we get to the serious parts.
Indeed.
All right, so I might as well bring this up. Let's do it this way. We're going to go ahead and share the screen. Boom. All right, bear with me because I'm going to pull up the tab for myself.
Indeed.
But I want the audience to be able to follow along. So, all right, this is from whitehouse.gov, official website. The White House, Restoring Truth in American History. Today, President Donald J. Trump signed an executive order restoring truth and sanity to American history by revitalizing key cultural institutions and reversing the spread of divisive ideology. President Trump aims to ensure that the Smithsonian is an institution that sparks children's imagination, celebrates American history and ingenuity, serves as a symbol to the world of American greatness, and makes America proud. The order directs the vice president, who is a member of the Smithsonian Board of Regents, to work to eliminate improper, divisive, or anti American ideology from the Smithsonian and its museums, plural, education and research centers, and the National Zoo. The order directs the administration to work with Congress to ensure that future Smithsonian appropriations, one, prohibit funding for exhibits for programs that degrade shared American values, divide Americans by race, or promote ideologies inconsistent with federal law, and two, celebrates women's achievements in the American Women's History Museum and do not recognize men as women. The vice president will work with the congressional leaders to appoint members to the Smithsonian Board of Regents who are committed to advancing the celebration of America's extraordinary heritage and progress. The order also directs the Secretary of the Interior restore federal parks, monuments, memorials, statues, markers, or similar properties that have been improperly removed or changed in the last 5 years to perpetuate a false revision of history or improperly minimize or disparage certain historical figures or events. In preparation for the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence on July 4th, 2026, the order directs that the Secretary of the Interior complete restorations and improvements to Independence Hall by that date. What you think, man? What you think?
This can go so many different ways, bro.
Hmm.
So many different ways.
Yes, indeedy. Well, which way do you see it going?
Left.
Well, it's already been left. You think it's being adjusted a little bit further right, or in the
Man,
closer towards the middle? Are we
here's
going extreme? What's happening?
extreme, yeah. And the only reason why I say that is because, I mean, it just seems that, and this is not with this, it just seems like with everything that this dude has done since he's been in office, like every claim that he's made, he's walked back. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? And this, I'm not saying that this is going to be one of them, but who says it's not? You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
But
So, like for example, in your eyes, what do you see as a walk back of an example of a walk back that he's done
I
recently?
mean, shit, the tariffs. Not all of them, but some of the wording in the tariffs and stuff that he's done is
Hmm.
he's said and he's walked back on some of them. But in that though, he's been more bold and doubled down on others. So I mean, it's like, okay, well, I'm gonna do this, but I'm not gonna do this, but I'm gonna just add it on to something else. You know what I'm saying? In the same
Right.
vein. I mean, dude, it's just kind of, I'm gonna just throw something against the wall and I'm gonna see what sticks. You know what I'm saying? And if it don't stick to the wall, I'm gonna find another surface for it to stick on.
Okay. Gotcha. So in this article, not to skip over what you just said, because I mean, I think you make an interesting point. I don't think the tariffs are going to be in place long term. I believe that they're going to be used as a negotiating tool, and that was the aim. You know, you go to a far extreme in thought or presentation in order to work back towards a middle ground. I think that's his always been his go to in negotiation. but also with a willingness to carry out the implied suggested threat, or however you interpret it. Maybe threat's not the best word, but you know the basis of the reality of him, and standing on business, so to speak. And I mean, it could always backfire. Um, but I think that what a lot of people are afraid of is his knowledge of history, which I find interesting, to say the least. Because at one point in time, that's where the bulk of America's wealth was created, through tariffs. And the start of American independence, in a sense, for certain groups of people, started with you know tariffs or taxes without proper representation of their best interests. And so that was the causation for rebellion, revolution, which of course at the core just really means change. Um, and I think that it's answering the question that a lot of us had, which is what period or point in American history does he want to make, not necessarily resemble beyond just the wealth aspect or success aspect of America, but not. I don't think the intent is really to take us back. I think it's to take us forward using principles of old that were beneficial to America. I mean, what's your take on that?
Okay, so everything you said, I definitely agree with. But this threats pimp gonna chop your ass up and leave you in the mattress like drug money, nigga. But no, in all seriousness, I agree with what you're saying. But like when I was talking about the whole tariffs thing, I think like with his rhetoric, it seems as though like he's too much of a loose cannon with some of his wording and everything. So
Okay.
it's like you can't really take him serious on his actual points because he be so inflammatory with other things that are his points real, and is everything that he's saying going to be legit, and is he going to follow through with what he does? You know what I'm saying? But like I said, I agree with what you're saying, and I see what I see your points exactly, and the way you just described that, it kind of puts things into a different perspective on some things that have happened in the past with him. You know what I'm saying? Like
Hmm.
he could actually get some things done with the actual, if his actual plans that he says, minus the antics and things, it could explain. And I'm not trying to get off topic or anything or deal with anything that happened with his past campaign, but it could explain a couple of attempts, allegedly. I'm just gonna say that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
No,
Yeah. In other words, are you saying that you see that the likelihood or the possibility of blowback in a major?
yeah, I mean, it's like with him putting a certain African American, legit African American, up in the same vein platform as him, doing things. You got a lot of people saying, oh, well, that's like causing turmoil within the party of the right wing, allegedly, you know. And for business purposes, they're saying that, oh, well, it's just only going to affect It's only going to be good for billionaires and blase this, blase that. That's only what we see, of course. And they speak on the blunders that also we see, of course. But as far as actual things that the media tends to overlook with things, and of course, this is just all stuff that we're seeing. We don't have no actual type of stance on any of this. We just going off of what we see here. We don't share any of the views or any of this stuff. So let's just get that clear.
Yeah,
You feel
exactly.
me?
Yeah.
So off of just what we see and the information that we're bringing to you or to the public that is not really being that's just being glanced over by the media, there are things that could actually help, and it's causing a discourse within the party and as far as turmoil and things. So they're just putting out the inflammatory stuff and everything, and this could possibly be some behind the scenes stuff that could actually be for good for the people that they don't want to see, and they're bringing up the inflammatory and trying to take action on it. So in retrospect, not in retrospect, in hindsight, I feel what you're saying, and I do agree with what you're saying.
Okay. Okay. I mean, so I'm going to read another part of this article, and then I'm going to move to another article because I'm going to give the opposing stance on this particular story and in order. It's more than just a story, but all right. Celebrating American greatness. President Trump is committed to honoring America's extraordinary heritage and building a sense of national pride. President Trump signed an executive order on his first day in office to establish a task force. Oh, sorry, I skipped over the part I wanted to read. Forgive me, you all. All right, combating corrosive ideology. In the last decade, Americans have witnessed a concerted effort to rewrite American history and force our nation to adopt a factually baseless ideology aimed at diminishing American achievement. President Trump is fighting back by reestablishing truth in the historical narrative and restoring federal sites dedicated to American heritage. The prior administration pushed a divisive ideology that reconstructed America's promotion of liberty as fundamentally flawed, infecting revered institutions like the Smithsonian and national parks with false narratives. At Independence National Historical Park in Philadelphia, the Biden administration sponsored training by an organization that advocates for dismantling Western foundations, and that taught park rangers that their racial identity should dictate how they present history to visitors. The Smithsonian Institution, once revered throughout the entire world as a symbol of American excellence, has recently promoted divisive ideology that American and Western values are harmful. Okay. The American Art Museum currently features an exhibit that purports to address how sculpture has been a powerful tool in promoting scientific racism and claims that the United States has used race to establish and maintain systems of power, privilege, and disenfranchisement. The National Museum of African American History and Culture has proclaimed that hard work, individualism, and the nuclear family are aspects of white culture. The American Women's History Museum plans to celebrate male athletes participating in women's sports. Now, I will say this: I don't disagree with that point, whether it's left leaning or not. Some of what those statements convey are inarguably steeped in some truth. That's my take on it, my opinion on it. However, the biggest issue I have is with that African American title. And we've discussed this before, and this is part of the topic, that we're supposed to get into with this episode today as well. What is your take on that aspect within the article or that part of the article?
The exact same shit. That's why I said earlier what I said, African American, when I was talking about Elon, because he is actually an African American.
He certainly is. Yes.
So with that being said, hey, y'all need to you put me on to that Dan Calloway live stream. We need to
Yep.
put that in the link or something, like seriously, because basically African American means you're from Africa and you have American citizen, you have dual citizenship. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
if that's the case, yeah, because black is not that's not a
It's
that just means
a pejorative term.
right. So I mean if that's the case, then shoot. If I really want to call myself something, I'm more caramel macchiato. So that means if I go in the Starbucks with diamond earrings on, I should get free iced caramel macchiatos in, right? I'm just saying. If I accept that term, then that's what I should be.
Mm-hmm.
Technically, that's
Absolutely.
wild. That's wild, man. But yeah, I agree with you on that.
So
Wholeheartedly.
here's the pushback, okay? And can you see this? Yeah,
Yup.
Congressional Black Caucus. All right. So let's. I want to call them something so bad, but it's so. Oh my god. Okay, I'll refrain from that at the moment. But the Congressional Black Caucus statement on Trump's executive order on the Smithsonian. This is from March 28th, 2025. So today, Congressional Black Caucus Chair Yvette D. Clarke and members of the Congressional Black Caucus issued the following statement. Yesterday, President Trump signed an executive order that claims to restrict funding for programs within the Smithsonian Institution that the administration is falsely accusing of promoting divisive narratives and improper ideology. There is nothing divisive or improper about telling the truth. We detest this administration's dedication to whitewashing our nation's history. Donald Trump's idea that the National Museum of African American History and Culture is guilty of distorting our nation's history or painting our founding principles in a negative light is patently ridiculous. It is the Trump administration that takes to the White House podium on a daily basis to lie and obfuscate the truth. It is the Trump administration that has broken with the century of tradition in allowing an independently selected press corps to cover the daily activities of the administration. It is the Trump administration that bans books, words, and phrases that do not fit their narrative. It is the Trump administration that wants to erase and retell our history. Let's be clear. Black history is American history. Any rhetoric that opposes this notion is not only factually incorrect, but blatantly racist. We will not stand for anything aside from the truth.
And
Hmm.
can we please get that month? If we gonna do it, can we please get that month moved? Why is it the
Yeah.
coldest month?
Why can't we have July? Oh, I'm sorry. That was their independence. Why can't we have June? Oh, I'm sorry. That's when they implemented the KKK flag. I mean, the Stars and Stripes. Uh, why can't we have August? Yeah, why can't we have August?
Mm-mm. Nope. We can't do August.
What's wrong with August?
We gonna have Will Smith going around bitch slapping people again, bruh. No, no. Allegedly. Shout out to
I
Will.
feel
It's
like
a joke.
slapping a nigga today. AI is wild, y'all. Just stay off
Whoa.
that. Oh man, it's wild. So I mean, look, there's so many things I want to say. I'm going to try my best to get into it without being long-winded. Uh,
Oh, fuck it. Catch that wind and let it take you.
First of all, the implications of what they're calling Black history being American history. The reason why Black history is American history is because who they're calling blacks, the former Negro, is the former American Indian, which is, as you brought up his name, Dane Calloway, has been excellent. He is of excellence. He and his wife, Tanisha Calloway, shout out. They don't know me personally. I don't know them personally, but I found them because I had a similar thought process. I had a phrase that I wanted to use. I'm just here to make you think. And I looked it up to see if it was taken, and I found Dane Calloway. He 3 months prior had started live streaming, and I'm glad because that it's so fitting to the work that he and his wife are doing. And um, based on the resources that they've procured and the dedication to the research of history and the highlighting of classical historical fallacies that have been pushed in the narrative here in America. It's just phenomenal the work that they're doing. I wanted to play a clip, but I don't want to get hit for any type of infringement. I'm not trying to claim any ownership or connection to their research. But there's a video, and the title of the video on Dane Calloway's channel is "Their Lies Finally Caught Up. Every department is in trouble." And in that live stream video that he did, he's explaining the contributions that he and his wife made to creating a curriculum correcting the historical fallacies of so-called blacks, formerly known as Negroes and prior as the American Indian, not to be confused with Native Americans who received that moniker in 1972 or so. All right, he lays this all out throughout his documentaries on his channel, and it's an excellent resource for taking notes. Take notes. If you're going to go watch the brother, which I highly encourage and suggest, take notes because people try to, oh, well, there's no receipts and he didn't show proof of that. Listen, he names titles of books, authors, articles, historically documented research. And there are several states who are currently in talks of adopting the curriculum that has been created by he and his wife, correcting these historical fallacies, one of which calling us black or even African American. We could thank Jesse Jackson for that, y'all. Now, ironically, one of the things that people will use to refute Trump being a racist that he funded Jesse Jackson's presidential campaign in the 1980s. That's a historical fact. That's documented. He was a highly sought after and beneficial contributor to black business incubators throughout the 1980s. Um, he's given and forgiven loans to small and large black business entrepreneurs and business generators. So I'm not here to defend uh, Donald Trump, the current president. I'm simply pointing out the balanced narrative as opposed to taking a side in obviously a political distraction that has affected our people. Uh, I won't say predominantly, but quite heavily, in our society today. It is an impediment, in my opinion, a roadblock that we need to bypass, not just overcome. We need to get past that roadblock and see the benefit that could be in some of these policy changes. Because the identity that we've been forced to accept for so long is not the one that our ancestors and our foreparents placed upon us by bringing us into this world. It just simply isn't. I'll make reference. I'm going to jump around a little bit, but they're all going to be coherent. There is a documentary on Netflix. In fact, I'm going to look it up on John Lewis. Um, that documentary there is another political figure that speaks to the fact that at one point in time, calling one another black was even fighting word.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Um, because it's a pejorative term. And when you look it up its legal meaning, it's a person that has no legal standing, that it's a non-descendable entity, meaning that it comes from nothing and produces nothing. There's no descendant, nor there is is there an antecedent, nor an ancestor of anyone black. It's a completely made up term, and we've accepted this. It's become cool. You know, they've even made shows like Orange is the New Black, letting you know that anybody that has been taken into a lesser status by incarceration, indoctrination, detention, or criminalized behavior is associated with that term and that idea.
Bruh. I hate to interrupt, but that should have been
I
that
want
should
to,
that should have been his campaign slogan. Orange is the new black.
ironic, isn't it? They call him the
Like a
Orange Man.
motherfucker.
Yeah,
Bruh.
absolutely. So the
Oh
one
shit.
documentary is called Good Trouble, but that's not the one I'm trying to. Let's see here. John Robert Lewis, and I'll share this. I'll share this here. Let me share this for those of you who forgot that quickly. This is John Robert Lewis. You've seen him before.
Oh, that's the dude. He just passed away, right?
2020.
Yeah.
Yep, he was a American civil rights leader and politician, member of the Democratic Party, and was the U.S. representative. Oops. Yep, for Georgia,
Yep.
5th
Yep.
Congressional District from 1987 until 2020, July 17th, his death. Um, he's also the dean of the Georgia Congressional Delegation, and the district he served includes the northern three-fourths of Atlanta. So this man was very powerful. He was a part of the civil rights movement. He joined King at the protest of his own parents. He explains in the documentary on Netflix that I've seen and several others have seen, where he describes his parents explained to him that if he pushed for voters' rights, that so-called blacks or Negroes at the time would lose their land rights, because you have to look into the deeper message behind that. The reason that they lose their land rights, and even Fannie Lou Hamer, who was going on a national press conference, uh, the president at the time was Richard Nixon, decided to hold a fireside chat live on another network to basically draw viewership away from what Fannie Lou Hamer's message was. And she explained in her interview, same thing John Lewis' parents told him before he joined King at 17 years old or 16 years old, is that if you pushed for voters' rights, you basically forfeit your land ownership rights, which ought to tell you something. In order to vote as as a foreigner, I'm just going to say it that way, that came and migrated or immigrated to U.S. soil at the time when politics really began in this country, you had to be white, over the age of 40, and a landowner. How does that happen when you have come to a land that doesn't belong to you? How do you become a landowner? How do you own anything that's
Right.
of that land, including
Right.
people, which were the first indentured and enslaved peoples, were the American Indians? And it just so happens it's convenient that we share the complexion and similarities in feature, as well as blood types, etc., with peoples who are of a darker hue around the world. So, how convenient a narrative to spin by to convince the people whose birthright is this land, who are of this land, that they're from somewhere else, just like everybody else. So this man went along with the mainline politics. I don't know if it was an individualized concept of power, which is interesting that they would point out in that article by the about the Congressional Black Caucus that those type of ideologies or principles are white ideologies, right? Well,
Mm-hmm.
we see why, because when these individuals started to move into the political infrastructure of the United States and not the land of America, they agreed basically to be silent about their heritage and their true birthright. So there had to be one that was rewritten. And this is where we have to really wake up. Okay, this isn't about Donald Trump. It's not about Joe Biden. It's not about Kamala Harris or any other name that is thrown up in the media for us to be distracted by their statements, their beliefs, opinions, or associations.
And can I interject real quick?
Absolutely.
And that's the
Please.
whole thing about the media. Like, it's not about, they're bringing about the person, not the actual bottom line, my brother. You know what I'm saying? And
Indeed.
that's where people are missing the whole point of the whole matter. You know what I'm saying? It's because, oh, well, it's somebody who people quote unquote don't like is doing it. If right is right and wrong is wrong, bro. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And
Facts.
that's where the point is being misled. And furthermore, if we're gonna say what we are, call me M.E for melanin enhanced or melanin enriched. Dead
Absolutely.
ass.
Absolutely. And of course, all human beings have subdural melanin, neuromelanin, and eumelanin. I did an episode on my other podcast, the Beyond the Veil, Beyond the Veil podcast, unusual
Shaman,
podcast.
what up?
Yeah, what's up, Black Shaman? Shout out to our other partner. But yes, I mean we discussed this. It's used as a defense system, a targeting system, a weapons system, a healing mechanism. Melanin is that thing, and it's what makes us all human, and we all have it. Not just us who are of a darker hue, but of course, like you said, it is enhanced and enriched because we're the original people. And if they can convince you that there is only a story of migration and immigration, then you will lose sight of who you truly are. And a lot of us already have, and that's okay because it it's the narrative that was given to us all. But unless you take the time to research, which means to search again, you will find that you've been lied to. And so maybe revising the information that's been propagated, which is the implication of Trump's executive order, that propaganda, which we know, those of us who follow certain areas of within the political spectrum, that President Obama made it legal for propaganda to be produced in the United States. And not that it wasn't already being produced before President Obama's terms, plural, as president, but it had actually been made illegal in the 1940s. So
Mm.
that's something to research, people of all hues, complexions, colorations, and ethnicities, because we're all one race. Okay, racism is a social ideology and construct just as much as race is. And as long as there's one side pushing racism, whether it be pro or versus, okay, then it continues to exist and it continues to be a problem that you throw money at, that you focus energy towards, okay? You get where I'm going with this?
Mm-hmm.
You could say distraction, but then it becomes even more than just a distraction because it becomes it remains a reality, even though it was an idea and a concept that was introduced. Okay, if you can hear me, yeah, I said mind control. It's been used for mind control. That's what government, governos mentos, to control the mind, to govern the mind. And I mean, and it's a necessary evil in the minds of most to keep order, right? And to keep things civil, to put laws in place by which those who are lawless would be forced to govern themselves or be held accountable by, should they choose not to govern themselves. So we have all these things being thrown at us to where we're distracted from the actual thing that's unfolding. In the spiritual communities, even within the religious sector of spiritual communities, it's it's been talked about that there's a reset going on, right? Back at the turn of the last century, we were looking at the end of Reconstruction, moving into what they called a Cold War. And what people missed is that Reconstruction was a reformation. It was a rewriting of history. It was a destruction, reconstruction, and overlaying of a new world on top of an old world. And you had a union of nations that decided that they were going to take over all of the land that was controlled or lived on by indigenous people. This isn't just something that affects us here, the so called blacks, formerly known Negroes, and currently called African Americans as well in America. But everybody's history had to have been rewritten. So just imagine, not only have you been lied to about your own history, you've been likely lied to about the history of the world. You take a trip somewhere else and talk to the locals and get with somebody that actually gives a shit about their culture and the history of their culture. They're going to tell you another narrative that is separate and different from the mainline narrative you've been fed. So why do we have so much trouble accepting the truth about what actually happened to us here? You have people like Mr. Calloway and Mrs. Calloway. You have people like Phoenix Moon. She refers to those who destroyed our history or rewrote it as grandma killers. Shout out to Phoenix Moon. There's many people in the content creation realm that are doing more than just creating content for dollars. They are trying to help you re-educate yourself. Okay. And so the Smithsonian is a tool. They own, I want to say 35 or 36 other entities or what we call museums. This is bigger than just the African American Heritage or Cultural Museum. Other people's cultures have been misrepresented as well. But my focus here today is my people's miseducation and the fact that it's time for us to explore and research, you know, and correct not just the historical record, but for example, if you're a reparations seeker, you are not going to get it claiming to be an African American. You're not going to get it claiming to be an African descendant of slavery. Research the international laws on what constitutes reparations and what are the requirements in order to be considered for the receipt of reparations.
Random disclaimer, we are not telling y'all how to scam money.
At all. I don't
Because you
even.
know for a fact that's the only way you going to get some of these people to read and research.
Absolutely. Absolutely true. And that's unfortunate, but it's reparations is more than just financial remuneration or compensation. It's to repair what has been destroyed. So when you say that you're for reparations, then really be about that. Really re-educate yourself on what it is that was broken. Because in my opinion, the narrative that was hidden from us, the truth, in other words, is far worse than the narrative that we've already been given. It's
Oh,
far worse.
definitely. Definitely. Definitely.
It's far worse because
I'm,
the acts of war that were committed on this soil against the original people of this soil is enough, more than enough, to constitute a need for reparations.
bruh. I mean, think about it. If they're talking about reparations, if they have been talking about reparations, and we've had more titles than old dirty bastard had monikers and I mean, seriously, bruh,
Yeah.
for real. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah, who
I'm
else has gone through that transition of titles and
and still not
misnomers?
necessarily known our original history and where we come from. If we have an original language
And we do.
and and not caring about it and not wanting to know why, because Wakanda sounds too cool already and people want to be from there.
And they are, because Wakanda is really Wisconsin. Wakanda is Chicago, we call Chicago or Chicago. Wak, 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 when you say Wakanda, you look up the golf course and look at what the street names are near there. It tells you the names of the language systems of the people. And the people, just like in Africa, just like other parts of the world, their language system is named after their tribe. They spoke their own family dialects. We spoke our own family dialects. But they got you thinking that we all came from West Africa or some other portion of a whole nother landmass that broke off from South America however many million years ago. It's not a theory. This is what happened. And we are related to those people. So it's not to I don't what we're speaking on, y'all, is not to be divisive. It's not to separate or make a demarcation of whose suffering was worse. I'm just saying the destroying of our true story is far worse than the story that we were given. The result of it, the outcome, has been far worse. The repercussion have been far worse. You know, we're arguing with each other over which plantation is better, the red or the blue one. It's just like saying who's more brutal, Bloods or Crips, who's worse, disciples or vice lords, who's worse, the FBI or CIA, who's worse, NYPD or LAPD. That's like that's tantamount to what's being discussed, and it's ridiculous. You know, how about we be on our own side? How about we pop the popcorn and let them do what they do, and we just slowly rebuild? How about we prepare our own self within before we start begging, asking, or even trying to demand without complete unification for something that we all don't fully agree upon? The way that it should be handled, dispersed, dispensed, even discussed
Or
publicly.
or Leah, let's just be quiet, be in the shadows, and rebuild what's been destroyed.
Absolutely.
And be strong, be so strong, and when it's been rebuilt, that can't nobody else destroy that shit, no matter how hard they try.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, let's see. Fair use. I got to play a little bit of this, man. Dane, shout out to you and your wife, man. Fair use. I'm not trying to claim any connection, ownership, or contribution to this.
You didn't open a lot of eyes, my brother. We trying to open some more.
Let's see here.
Social engineering gonna do with the money that he's gonna take from the people that don't act right when it comes to equality and what's been going on. I'm gonna come back a little bit. I'm gonna take y'all back to. Let me take y'all back during his campaign real quick, and I'm gonna make sure that y'all can hear this. Let me put the boost on. We gonna start like this. Y'all ready?
Once again, this is fair use. This is from Dane Calloway's channel. This is his live stream from a few days ago, 3 days ago here. And the title is "Their Lies Finally Caught Up. Every Department is in Trouble."
Make sure y'all go check out the rest of it though, for real, because it's
One
deep.
step at a time to show y'all what's been going on. Y'all ready?
Yeah, we ready.
Hold up. Don't get disrespectful. And look at that like button. That's disrespectful. You got to treat that like button like you just took your shoes off at the door. That's even before you even walk in. You understand what I'm saying? You got to treat that like.
But through budget cases, diversity.
We're going to go back to the beginning of
his clear
speech here.
It was just that a lot of you all didn't understand where it was coming from. And I'm going to tell you right now, neither did I. Until we were requested.
Did y'all catch that?
Walk in. You understand what I'm saying? You got to treat that like button with respect. You got to.
Indoctrinating.
All right, so here we go. So let's go back just a little bit right before he became president. I want y'all to peep game.
American accreditation.
Sorry.
It's clear. It was just that a lot of you all
I want y'all to hear
didn't understand where it was coming from. And I'm going to tell you right now, neither did I until we were requested.
Did you catch that? Until they were requested. I believe he's referring to himself and his wife based upon the curriculum that they've been working on. I mean, this man has already submitted historical documentation to such a high degree that the state of Virginia had to correct their history on the arrival of the White Lion first slave ship to arrive in the port of what's now named Jamestown, formerly known as Point Pleasant, or Point Comfort, Point Comfort, Virginia. That's what it is. And also the historical record on Nat Turner, the original location of the alleged house being moved as a monument for people that they take on these tours. And, you know, the fact that Nat Turner, he showed documentation and proof, as well as Harriet Tubman, were juridical people. And that's up to you all to look up what a juridical person is, legally speaking, is a person that has been legislated into existence. It's an entity, y'all. It's a corporation. And he even breaks down where the money to those estates have gone, because they were never what we would call actual people. They're real people because the definition of real, when you deal with legalism and what a juridical person is, that's legislated by an act of Congress into being. It's heavy stuff. Check this out.
It's up.
Okay. Here we go. Listen clear.
Tuition costs at colleges and universities have been exploding. And I mean absolutely exploding. While academics have been obsessed with indoctrinating America's youth, the time has come to reclaim our once great educational institutions from the radical left, and we will do that. Our secret weapon will be the college accreditation system. It's called accreditation for a reason. The accreditors are supposed to ensure that schools are not ripping off students and taxpayers, but they have failed totally. When I return to the White House, I will fire the radical left accreditors that have allowed our colleges to become dominated by Marxist maniacs and lunatics. We will then accept applications for new accreditors who will impose real standards on colleges once again and once and for all. These standards will include defending the American tradition and Western civilization, protecting free speech, eliminating wasteful administrative positions that drive up costs incredibly, removing all Marxist diversity, equity, and inclusion bureaucrats, offering options for accelerated and low-cost degrees, providing meaningful job placement and career services, and implementing college entrance and exit exams to prove that students are actually learning and getting their money's worth. Furthermore, I will direct the Department of Justice to pursue federal civil rights cases against schools that continue to engage in racial discrimination.
Excuse me, what did he just say?
Totally.
Back here.
When I return to the White House, I will fire the radical left accreditors that have allowed our colleges to become dominated by Marxist maniacs and lunatics. We will then accept applications for new accreditors who will impose real standards on colleges once again and once and for all. These standards will include defending the American tradition and Western civilization, protecting free speech, eliminating wasteful administrative positions that drive up costs incredibly, removing all Marxist diversity, equity, and inclusion bureaucrats, offering options for accelerated and low-cost degrees, providing meaningful job placement and career services, and implementing college entrance and exit exams to prove that students are actually learning and getting their money's worth. Furthermore, I will direct the Department of Justice to pursue federal civil rights cases against schools that continue to engage in racial discrimination and schools that persist in explicit, unlawful discrimination under the guise of equity will not only have their endowments
under
taxed.
The guise of equity.
Exactly. Comments.
Dude, he's saying it.
I mean, what's wrong with what he's saying? I mean, if I'm missing it, I would like to be corrected. But I mean, the number one beneficiary of DEI advancement was white women. I mean, that's an accepted, known, documented fact. And I have nothing against white women as a group. Just saying, things were kind of, not just kind of, they were heavily slanted. So where's the equity in that? And then, you know, the second group I want to say was the LGBTQIA plus. Nothing against that group of people and their identity. Just saying, that's not leveling the playing field. That's slanting the favoritism, slanting the privilege. It's just a shift. So now there's a new set of people to be angry with or about. That's that politics stuff. You know what I'm saying? And anyhow, I'm gonna go back and let
Listen, y'all.
You'll play a little bit more.
Listen.
Worth.
This
Furthermore, I will
reality.
direct the Department of Justice to pursue federal civil rights cases against schools that continue to engage in racial discrimination and schools that persist in explicit, unlawful discrimination under the guise of equity will not only have their endowments taxed, but through budget reconciliation, I will advance a measure to have them fined up to the entire amount of their endowment. A portion of the seized funds will then be used as restitution for victims of these illegal and unjust policies that hurt our country. So
now, he told you right then and there what he's going to do with the money that he's going to take from the people that don't act right when it comes to equality inside of universities and colleges.
So badly.
Keep in mind, I just
Colleges have
went back
gotten
so you can
hundreds
see.
of billions of dollars from hard work of these illegal and unjust policies, policies that hurt our country so badly.
Gives an interview at the end of that year, and a part of that interview is to how did you do it? Would that scam artist admit to scamming to make it? Africa, none. But the bureaucrats.
Heavy.
Very much.
Oh wow! I didn't even realize he pulled up the same article.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see what Dane has to say about this. This is the part I wanted to hear him get into, or let the audience hear him get into.
At the video,
watch this for yourself.
Live stream at the live stream.
Consistency.
And then they get mad. Like, how did he get how did he get this following? I don't understand. Because I'm putting in the work and it paid off. My ancestors said, this what you got to do, Dane Calloway. No, don't come up with no stage name. Stay with your own name that your mother and father gave you and be yourself. Here's why. We need to use you to get.
Sorry, y'all. I don't have a producer yet. So we gonna do what we do and work with what we got.
I'm excited. Okay. I want to point something out. Harmful and oppressive. And a global icon of culture achievement, the Smithsonian Institution
That's what we just
has
said.
in recent years come under the influence of diverse race-centered ideology.
Wonder where that came from.
The shift has promoted narratives that portray American and Western values as inherently harmful and oppressive.
So I think his sound went out briefly there.
For example, the Smithsonian American Art Museum today features The Shape of Power, Stories of Race in America's Culture, an exhibit representing that societies, including the United States, have used race to establish and maintain systems of power, privilege, and disenfranchisement.
Dane in his life always mentioned.
You know why I'm stressing that issue? Ain't nobody talk about that but us.
Original people.
Nobody. But again, they're going to sprinkle in a tad bit of truth and give you a whole bunch of BS. That's stopping now. The exhibit further claims that sculpture has been a powerful tool. And listen. The exhibit further claims that sculpture has been a powerful tool.
Yep.
In promoting scientific racism. Listen, scientific racism, and promotes the view that race is not biological reality, but a social construct.
Yep. Stating race is a human invention. So let's see what Donald Trump, the president, is saying on this. Let's see. And mind you, once again,
So
y'all, the
here we go. Let's
Smithsonian
play this.
controls, I want to say,
A
over
perfect
30
example
institutions.
of critical race theory was recently published by the Smithsonian Institution. This document alleged that concepts such as hard work, rational thinking, and the nuclear family and belief in God were not values that unite all Americans, but were instead aspects of whiteness. This is offensive and outrageous to Americans of every ethnicity, and it's especially harmful to children of minority backgrounds who
Check
should
this
be
out.
uplifted, not disparaged. Teaching this horrible doctrine to our children is a form of child abuse
Boom.
in the truest sense of those
Listen,
words.
did y'all
Man,
listen? This was Donald Trump.
that's all I'm gonna play. I'm not trying to get dinged for anything. All respect to Dane Calloway, Tanisha Calloway, the Calloway family. All respect, man. It's in all sincerity. Child abuse. I mean, like I said, I'm not for either plantation, but God dang. I mean, it's bad enough that they can educate your children on things that you may not agree that they are old enough or mature enough to handle, like human sexuality beyond, the scope of what is readily seen in public display, which could be varied, of course. This is America. It's a free country for the most part. But you want to teach what he said. What he said. It's a strong statement. What's your take? What's your take, Corey?
Hell
Handsome and
yeah, it's child abuse. That's worse than when you make your kids come down and dance for company.
yeah, it is worse. It's far worse. Um, just real quick while I'm thinking about it, I brought up something else. I had this bookmarked because Dane also had played this clip of the what is it? The Gaming Commission. What did he go before? State of Okay, United States House of Representatives Committee on Natural Resources. Donald Trump appeared in 1993 to offer his testimony on Indian gaming. Okay. All right. So most of Trump's testimony focused on Indian gaming itself and his perception that the Indian Gaming Regulatory Act granted tribes an unfair advantage over his own gaming enterprises. I disagree with that statement. But it was another part of Trump's testimony that caught my attention. He questioned the legitimacy of Indian tribes based upon the physical appearance of their members. Mr. Miller, is this you discussing Indian blood? We're going to judge people by whether they have Indian blood, whether they are qualified to run a gaming casino or not. Mr. Trump, that probably is me, absolutely, because I will tell you what. If you look at some of the reservations that you have approved, you, sir, and your great wisdom have approved, will tell you right now, they don't look like Indians to me, and they don't look like Indians to Indians. Now, maybe we say politically correct or not politically correct. They don't look like Indians to me, and they don't look like Indians to Indians. And a lot of people are laughing at it. And you're telling me how tough it is, how rough it is to get approved. Well, you go up to Connecticut and you look. Now, they don't look like Indians to me, sir. Now, some people would take that and frame it as him speaking on some colorism, okay? They try to reverse what he was actually saying, but there's a problem with their attempts. He went on Don Imus's program, and I'm not going to pull that one up. I'm going to let people have fun with that, digging up the transcripts like I took the care and initiative to do. Where he says, "Hey Don," he says, can I speak freely?" He said, "Go ahead, Donald." He said, "I'll be truthful with you." He said, when I met this guy, he basically was implying that the guy running the casino, which you can do that legwork on yourself by yourself as well, from Connecticut, was clearly not an American Indian by blood, nor was he pretending to be, but he was the CEO of the gaming resort, and that's who he met with, and that's who he was talking about. That and the other members of, let's say, certain other foreign families of a different appearance that were used in Hollywood films to depict the current appearance that they want us to believe American Indians have and to confuse us with Native Americans intentionally. He pointed out that the real Indians look like Michael Jordan, the basketball player, then Billy Joe, and I can't think of the guy's last name, disrespect to his memory, but he was a big time Hollywood actor that was in a lot of spaghetti westerns, a lot of the cowboy flicks, as we called them back in the day. And he was of Italian descent, and that is the appearance that they were trying to sell America was the Indians, more of a Central Asian Native American as they were renamed or classified in the 70s, 1970s. So
Hmm.
he knows exactly what he's saying, and good, bad, or otherwise, as people might perceive him, depending on how they view themselves, is how I look at that. He's very intentional in a lot of his speech, and not to offend per se, but in disregard to offending you. He's telling the truth as he sees it, good, bad, or otherwise. That's how I take him in a lot of his statements. Not to defend once again, because I don't know him personally. I don't know that I would want to know him personally, but I don't know that I wouldn't want to know him personally because I don't know him personally. I've never met him, never encountered him. So this isn't to defend him. That's not the focus of our show today. We just want you to take a look at things for yourself, right? And understand that when he said, "I'm not racist, I'm racial," what he's saying is, I know the concept of race that's been presented, and I see through the farce of it. But I also know that certain people come from certain places and have certain genetic factors that are prominent in their appearance. That's why he challenged Elizabeth Warren on her claiming to be Native American. And it just so happens that she went to school on a scholarship claiming that status and had no proof of any blood quantum. And a DNA test is not going to prove your blood quantum. You have to have genealogical research and records, which Dane Calloway and his wife have been saying since at least 2016 on the internet.
And we ain't gonna talk about DNA tests for that that right quote unquote racial stuff no more because they sold 23andMe.
And Ancestry.com was bought by Blackstone, not BlackRock, but Blackstone, a holdings company that's now holding your genetic data and family, well, not family, but your genetic data and history, your genetic coding for sale to the
Mm,
pharmaceutical companies now.
bruh, pharmaceutical companies, that shit gonna be on the AI black market.
Oh yeah, it already is.
Allegedly,
It already
allegedly.
is. We ain't even got to allege that. There's already breaking stories. People just haven't been following it, and we talked about it in September of last year. It's people
Didn't
just now
we?
realizing, just now realizing. Dane spoke on it. He kept warning people, stop taking these genetic DNA tests. They're not going to tell you your ancestors. They're going to dig up your ancestors to compare your samples. That's the only way to determine that. All they could tell you is who you're currently related to, and mostly through your paternal DNA on your father's side. So they tell you, oh, you have 3% share 3% genetic markers with the uh, I don't want to be making a mockery, but the Akan people of West Africa and Ghana. That's because you're related to them now. Somebody Ghanaian or Akan married someone in your close proximity bloodline. So you share those markers another ancestor, but it doesn't tell you that that's where you come from. It doesn't give you your ancestry line through that genetic coding. They haven't determined that. That's why they say it's 0.01% accurate. You go back and watch the 60 Minutes. Dane's covered all of these things. I'm not trying to take credit for the knowledge, the gnosis, but Dane covered all these things. These just happen to be things that I've also been attracted or drawn to in my research and in my experience in everyday life. Things that just always catch my attention, even before I encountered or became aware of Dane Calloway. So I promote what he's doing because he's putting money, effort, legwork, intelligence behind this, and then he's promoting and not promoting, but producing documentaries, quality documentaries. The man went to school to learn how to do these things so that our people can re-educate themselves correctly.
So it's
And
his
once
passion.
again,
That's his
yeah,
passion.
he's just here to make you think. I'm just here to make you think. I'm not trying to steal his moniker or anything like that. I'm just saying it. That's the only thing that one can do. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. Hopefully we get thirsty enough real soon and stop drinking their Kool-Aid and we return to the water that the ancestors left purified for us, because they're trying to poison us in every way, including mentally. They've been poisoning us spiritually, physically, mentally. It's been happening, y'all. And so, it's not to try to focus on things that bring fear, okay? But just be aware that there's a whole nother side of things that you're not hearing that you're going to have to find for yourself. And it's like I said, not to defend either plantation, because the plantation used to belong to us. I mean, the number of people that were killed for saying this back while it was still yet in progress of being put in place as a narrative. Martin Luther King Jr., through acts of Congress, they legislated the creation of undergirding an economic floor for the peasants of Europe. Malcolm X, we didn't land on Plymouth Rock. The rock was landed on us. What did he say prior to that? You've been had. You've been hoodwinked. You've been bamboozled.
Yes.
That's what he found out when he went to Africa on the tour of nations that he went on. They said, what do you mean come home, brother? What do you mean us join together with? They said, you were already home. That's where your people are from. That's the kicker, bro. You're already home. We were waiting on you to sound the alarm. We come help you.
Right.
But now we're being told return, the right of return. And then you get there and find out that you're still viewed as a foreigner because they know something that you don't, that you're from here. When your people say, oh, we came up from Louisiana, we came from Mississippi, we came up north from Carolinas, Florida, Georgia, that's where you're from. Canada, migrated down. Yeah, that's where you're from. So we hope that you've enjoyed and learned something here from this particular show about what is the Black identity, where does it come from? Is it a pejorative term? Is it a reality? Is it a social construct? And what is this executive order that a lot of people are up in arms about? What does it really mean? I suggest that, we all do our research and our due diligence. But, as Dane's video, go watch his video, man. He's explaining to you that there are actually people who look like you who want your best interests to be put in place, that have already been in high places with information to show that the record needs corrected and that our mindset needs adjusted, not to be controlled, but to be freed. Anything you want to say? Any shout outs you want to give before we wrap it up?
What I will say is, with all this stuff that we've just said and spoke on, the main thing is they're trying to use the fear tactic. Fear is a manipulator. Run towards your fear instead of running away from it. And you do that, you face everything and rise. And when you rise, you elevate and your mind is open and they cannot control that. When they cannot control your mind, you got the power. That's it.
Well said, brother. Well spoken. Like, share, and subscribe. Once again, comment, hate, love. No, we prefer to love, but hey, it's a free
Yeah, you
country.
can hate, just participate.
Just participate, be involved. You know what I'm saying? We want to get you involved. Show your love. YouTube.com/Jay.Drewz3692. That's to see our podcast and also Beyond the Veil. Check out and support www.blacksunshaman.com. You can find your parasite cleanse, your toxic metal remover compounds, your vitamin supplements, your all overall well-being supplies and products. Support our guys' business. Support us. Rumble.com/Deeper Dives Dialogue UNL. Like, share, subscribe, join our locals at that same location.
Indeed.
And this has been another one. Thanks for joining us. And be easy. We will see you next time. Deeper Dives Dialogue Unlimited. Peace. My bad, y'all. That was the wrong one.